Okay, I know they had got a lot of these problems, but I'm going to do long division, just give you a couple examples of how to do it, just to remind you how to do it. I'm sure all of you are going to remember once you see it, but um, so this is letter E on their long division worksheet. I picked this one because it's a little bit funkier than the rest, a little bit more difficult, but all the principles are the same if you know how to do this one. Just to be clear, when they're doing long division, when your son or daughter asks, what they're actually doing is this or this as the equivalent here. All three of these, this one, and this one all mean the same thing. So if they ask that question, just, I guess you can probably explain that to your kid on your own. All right, so you start by this number right here on the outside is going to be the denominator, so that's the most important piece. All right, you're going to start by taking the 3 and looking at that very first number and saying, how many 3's are there in 4? Since 4 is larger, then we know we have at least one 3 that makes up that number. Remember, you can't go over this number. That's important to relate to the kid. So how many 3's are there in 4? There's 1, so I put the 1 right above the number that I'm concentrating on. And then I take this number and I multiply it by this number. These two get multiplied together and get dropped down here, so it makes a little semicircle right here. All right, and then you take 1 times 3, that's going to give you 3. Then I'm going to subtract those two numbers. I'm going to subtract down, and I'm going to get a 1. So 4 minus 3 is 1. All right, now the process kind of starts over again. So once this line hits, this is an equal sign right here. Once that hits, then you're kind of starting this process that you started here. How many 3's are there in 4? That process starts over. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the 3 with the 1. How many 3's are there in 1? Well, I can't, that doesn't make any sense. There's not enough of these to get a whole one of these. So I got to do something to make that work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag down this 4 that's next in line up here, down here. Now I'm going to concentrate on 3 and 14 as opposed to just the 1. So how many 3's are there in 14? This is where knowing the multiplication tables will save your kid a lot of time. There are 4, so the 4 goes up here because this is the number that we drag down. This is now the concentration number, so we're going to put the number of 3's that make up 14 without going over the 14 right above the number 4 right here. Just happens to be a 4 and 1. That's why I think this is a little bit confusing. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing I did before. I'm going to concentrate on just the 4, which is the number I just wrote up there. I'm going to multiply that by the 3 and make the semicircle down to here. So it goes from up here to here, down to here using multiplication. So 4 times 3 is 12. And again, I'm going to do the same thing I did here, which was subtract. Same process I did here, I'm going to do right here. I'm going to subtract. 14 minus 12 is 2. And now I start over again. So I look at the 3 and I say, how many 3's are there in 2? Again, it doesn't make any sense. Now the problem is I can't drag anything down over here because I've got nothing here. I do, and later on they're going to make you put a decimal right here and then a 0 when you guys start learning when the kids start learning how to do decimals up here. So we'll put the decimal here, instead of fractions. But for now, they're just concentrating on working on mixed numbers and figuring out what this piece right here means. Okay, so this piece right here is what's left over. They call that the remainder. And in some books I've seen, and it's a kind of a younger way of doing it, the answer would be 14R2. But this mathematically doesn't mean squat. The kid has no idea what that means. So yes, there's a remainder of 2. There's 2 left over because when I subtracted the 14, the 12 from the 14, I got a 2. All right, so that remainder, what that remainder means is this piece right here is going to be the numerator, and this piece right here is going to be the denominator in the fraction part of the mixed number. Remember, a mixed number is a number that has a whole number and a fraction part. All right, this tells you how far to go from 0. You go past 3, and you go a quarter past 3. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this number right here. I'm going to take the 2, and I'm going to put this in the top of the fraction up here. So I'm going to do this in red just to separate it. So the 2 goes up here. All right, and then I'll do this in blue. This 3 goes right here. So the answer to this one, I don't want to confuse you right here, but the answer to this is 14 2/3. So you could multiply 14 times 3, you'd only get to 42. We're looking to get to 44. So we got to add these 2 to it, to the 42, to get to 44.